All right, so welcome back into our live stream today. Of course, today we're going to dive in a little deeper on a project and also a service that's out there in the marketplace when it comes to crypto, both lending and also kind of the aspect of yields and gains on your stable coins, your Bitcoin, a variety of different crypto projects. Really dive a little deeper with the founder of Celsius, and he's been on our show before, but welcome back. My name is Paul Barron. You are in and about TechPath. We are really grilling it up today. I think the cool thing is that we continue to bring on founders and really dive in a little deeper in our AMAs to give you guys a little bit more insight to what's happening in some of these projects. And today is no different as we get Alex Mashinsky on from Celsius, who is the CEO of Celsius. Great to have you back on the show here, Alex.
Yeah, hi Paul, good to be back.
Yeah. All right, so last time we had a chance to talk, I think it was back in October. A lot's happened since then. Metaverse happened. The Bitcoin goes out and hits an all-time high. Then we have some craziness coring down Bitcoin in terms of causing a lot of trouble in terms of volatility. What has been happening though with Celsius during all that time? It seems like it's been about a year, but it's only been a few months.
Crypto time, so
yeah,
so definitely volatile markets. I think obviously the Fed is the center of all of that. So the Fed is like a black hole. We're just circling around the Fed. So when they move, everything moves with them. But Celsius have been doing very well, record users, record assets, and we continue to grow. We currently manage over 20 billion for about 1.5 million users worldwide. Wow. And we've paid over $1 billion in yield and interest. We also, end of last year, closed on a second largest round of funding in crypto history, 750 million, with two lead investors that are first time they're coming into the crypto world. And also we launched several new products. We now have Celsius X, so you can check it out. CelsiusX.io is the website, and that's a native, basically wrapping of assets. So we support about 50 assets on 16 blockchain, and we're launching this with Polygon and Chainlink.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen what's going on, plenty of news, a lot of new stuff going on every day.
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting to me is in your raise, and we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, is because we do the same thing. We're following the investors. If you look at the VCs movement, whether it's in metaverse gaming, traditional projects in Bitcoin and or in blockchain, and one of the things I'm always cognizant of is understanding where the big money is moving behind some of the companies that are really making waves. And of course, big money for you guys in terms of a raise. That's a huge investment. And I also think it gives a lot of validity to the space in general of blockchain, of not only the banking industry kind of taking notice, but also Wall Street and many others that are starting to look at this as a new haven of digital assets and really kind of forming a new class. When you look at all of that landscape right now with what we're seeing around capital raises, market acceptance, all those kind of things, do you feel like this year we could continue to see more adoption?
Yeah, so definitely capital is flowing into the space, into Web3 and different crypto assets, both from traditional venture and private equity funds, but also from basically people who are emptying their bank accounts and moving to stable coins, moving into Bitcoin or Ethereum, and so on, right? So the investments continue to pour. Celsius also have done many investments. We participated in the recent $450 million raise for Polygon, also invested in 1inch. We announced a $500 million investment in mining, in crypto mining. So, a lot of capital chasing yield, chasing returns. And it's, again, hard to get, there's an asset bubble across the board, right? In equities, in bonds, in real estate. So you're seeing money shifting into the space because a lot of the assets in Web3 are undervalued.
Yeah, that's one thing that we continue to look at is just the overall scope of the market. And I think in general, if you look at what the market cap has been kind of fluctuating between $1.5 trillion to almost $2 trillion. Now probably potentially going to clip over $2 trillion as we continue to see altcoins move. Metaverse starts to kind of contribute to that overall market cap. When you look at the scope of this business today as it is versus back in 2017, a lot more verticals in blockchain, a lot more opportunities, whether it's DeFi or you look at what's happening obviously in the core altcoins and just the number of projects that are coming. Where do you see that coming in the next, say, 5 years? Do you think we could hit that $5 trillion mark in the next 5 years before we start to see some really big adoption rates around what could really take us into the next layer of financial instruments?
Yeah, you're right. I think the first 7 or 8 years of Bitcoin were all about store of value. That was the killer app. Sorry, Celsius was one. We created the yield on the blockchain. We invented that a year before DeFi, what we call DeFi. Celsius launched the first yield on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and again, 50 other assets. And today, Celsius is one of the largest participants in all the different DeFi markets. So that's a second kind of killer app. And now we're seeing expansion into NFTs, gaming, a lot of other verticals that kind of rely or ride on top of these existing infrastructure that you talked about. And it's like, basically different chains competing with each other to find the next killer app, right? So I think we're just in the beginning of that exercise. It's like, again, if you think about the internet boom, we're probably somewhere in 97, maybe beginning of 98. So we have several more years before I think we have a blow off top. And I definitely think we're going to exceed $5 trillion. It's not going to take 5 years. It could take, I'm expecting Bitcoin to hit $140,000 to $160,000 this year. And so if you do the math on that, and Ethereum at 67,000, we will get there much faster than 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest question for that, because one of the arguments that I hear a lot from both financial advisors, a lot of Wall Street generalists out there, is just, are we in an ecosystem or in a bubble that, since 2019 we've seen a lot of growth in crypto, but is it somewhat incestuous, so to speak? It really is within its own economy, with its own ecosystem of a lot of investors kind of rehashing and moving in and out of different projects with profits they've made, versus bringing on new adoption and really new investors, and also in many cases new whole asset class categories, whether it's private offices, obviously structured capital, all those kind of things. Do you think we are at that point, or do you feel like we have broken out of kind of the egg so far and moving into traditional adoption?
No, we're definitely seeing broader adoption. At Celsius, we have tens of thousands of corporate and institutional customers. So we're seeing a mass acceleration. I can tell you we are at all-time record signing up new corporate customers compared to like last year or the year before. So definitely seeing acceleration on the institutional family office corporate side, but also on the retail side. I think CNN recently did a survey in the United States, 48% of Americans have crypto. So that's obviously a very high number. Big. And in our own stats, the 18 to 34 age group has doubled. It went from being just under 20% to now over 50%. So it's getting younger and it's getting broader.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that we hit on a lot here, is this new evolution of a new investor class, really being the millennials. What we will see with Gen Z starting to move into this, which are kind of stepping away from traditional investments and moving into the crypto classes themselves. So I think that opens up some great opportunity for growth down the road for you guys, for sure. Now, you guys have a new Celsius V5 app. Can you talk a little bit about the V5?
Yeah, we just launched it yesterday. It has a swap function. It has a buy token function. And on swaps, it's important to understand that Celsius does not just that we don't charge any fees, but there's also no spreads. So a lot of other players kind of tell you no fees, but really if you check the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum on their platforms, you'll see that you're paying hundreds of dollars more. Celsius, you're getting a wholesale rate. You're getting an institutional price. It's the same quote we give institutions when they come and want to move millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum. So with $100, you get basically to play with the big boys, run with the big dogs.
I
So
like it.
definitely try the swap function, try the yield function. Still paying the highest yield across the board. So we think it's the best product in the market.
Alex, when I onboarded, I'm a Celsius customer, and one of the things that, and I talk to a lot of people that look at the platform, like it. They like the concept of, not only the yield aspect, but also the element of crypto loans. And when you look at all those frameworks within Celsius, you have kind of two onboarding layers, one being the traditional and then accredited investors. Explain to me the process and why the accredited investor segregation, so to speak, within the app itself. Why does that work that way? Are there certain regulations? Can you tell me about that?
Sure, yeah. So again, Celsius has been trying to be as compliant as possible. I think we have much higher standards than others in the industry. And because of that, anything the SEC or other regulator consider maybe a security or maybe stuff that can only be provided to accredited users, we restrict. And because of that, if you want access to those services, for example, earning more yield and sell or getting special pricing or benefits, we need to see that you're an accredited investor. You can quickly go through that accreditation, get qualified as an accredited investor, and then you get access to all those special services. So this is an effort we've had for several years to make sure that we stay compliant and that no bad apples can taint the basket that we have, to make sure we can continue providing this amazing yield and loans, swaps, and other services to our entire community.
I look at, all right, so lots happening around the aspect of yield, and there's a lot of competition that's starting to surface in the category. We've seen asset selection being one of the kind of the differentiators for whether or not people might jump on, because maybe they're into USDC, or maybe they hold Tether, or maybe they have just a big bag of Bitcoin. It kind of just depends on the investor themselves. But what's the potential for you guys starting to roll out with, say, USDT and other stable coins, as well as other mainline assets? What are your future tokens coming on to Celsius?
Yeah, so I think we support the broadest range of stablecoins, 13 different stablecoins, including USDC, USDT, BUSD, all the different stablecoins. You can check them out on our website or download the app. And we recently added Luna. We're adding Solana tomorrow. Okay. We've added Doge and several others. So I think most of the top 20 are there already. And the key is really yield and fees. Like I see, for example, Coinbase publishes a rate for staking, but really they don't tell you that they take 25% of that in fees. When Celsius publishes a rate, that is what you actually get in your wallet. So I invite everybody who's earning that yield to actually check apples to apples, see what you're getting every week. We pay every Monday, just compare it to anything else, and we proudly beat most DeFi and CeFi platforms.
Yeah. Do you think that with what you're doing with Celsius X, are you seeing large adopt? Do you feel like there's enough of an appetite for people? Because I think in some cases there's the crypto adventurous who are willing to go on to DeFi platforms, do some pretty risky things, but also for some great gains. Then there's kind of a little bit more risk adverse that are looking for platforms like Celsius. Do you feel like there's enough potential market there for what you guys are doing with Celsius X?
Yeah, so we support all functions, right? So if you don't know anything about DeFi and you don't want to spend days or weeks learning about every project and doing audits and figuring out who are the founders, are they going to pull a rug or do a rug pull or a scam or whatever, then you can leave all that to Celsius. Just basically let us do the deployment. But you can also, if you want to go deeper, use the Celsius X platform to effectively wrap assets and go cross-chain, right? So what we do is allow you to go cross-chain between different platforms, and that's what unites liquidity between, for example, Bitcoin and Polygon, or Dogecoin and Polygon, or Ethereum, and so on. So those are huge benefits that eliminate your need. Mostly people who have to go and use bridges, and as we've seen on the Solana hack and other hacks, those are not very reliable solutions, and you're really risking your capital. So Celsius is providing a layer 0 native minting, and Celsius takes the responsibility to make sure that you will get the asset back when you return the wrapped assets on the Polygon chain or some other chain. So it's really based on your level of expertise, but we still pay same old sweet yield if you just want to park assets with Celsius and let us do all the deployment for you.
Yeah, I like the approach for sure. I think this could be a product that gets some traction out there for sure. Let's talk a little bit about our channel covers traditional blockchain, a lot of the projects, altcoins, et cetera, but we also cover metaverse gaming and so on, NFTs to a certain extent. NFTs gaining a lot of extreme exposure this year, more so than even I anticipated. The valuation of a lot of these assets starting to really skyrocket. What are the potentials of starting to utilize or collateralize NFTs and be able to use them in loan, vehicles? Is there something down the road that you guys are looking at?
Yes, it's important, like you said, it's important to understand that most items in our real world or in the metaverse are non-fungible, meaning really money and few other things are fungible, right? Most things are non-fungible, right? So NFT, it's not surprised that NFTs are taking off, and we just need to figure out what are real assets and what are not real assets. And as time goes by, I think the community kind of votes to figure out what is real, what is not real. So punks, apes, things like that obviously have real communities around them. And Celsius is definitely going to provide lending and other type of services around that. We are launching our NFT initiative later on this month, so watch out for what Celsius is doing, and we're also obviously going to also support what other people's do. Right? Again, everybody right now is trying to build their own island of NFTs, or their own island of blockchain or DeFi. And what Celsius is trying to do is unite all of that so we can work together against TradFi, traditional finance, right? How do we bring 8 billion people from TradFi and CeFi and DeFi, just two sides of the same coin, right? So we have to win through it together. And we obviously showed how we're working with Polygon, 1inch, Chainlink, many other projects to do exactly what I just said.
I think when we see more and more of this moving into mainstream, the adoption, and I think you're right, the community is going to start asking for these kinds of products and services out there. So I know you guys are definitely kind of front-end leaders here, so I'm sure that you guys are going to bring it out there. Let's talk about Metaverse tokens for a second. You've dropped a lot on the platform where you are providing yield. I believe Mana's on there. What's the potential, Decentraland, what is the potential of maybe getting Axie on there? Because Axie, of course, has been doing a lot of work around staking, but the problem with that is there's a lot of hoops that people have to jump through to get that done, versus maybe setting back and looking at some fairly high yield opportunities on a token like Axie Infinity. Any plans there?
Yeah, so first, again, we're supporters of all of these. Just because something is not on the Celsius platform doesn't mean it's a bad project. But you do have to be careful. You have to understand what is the inflation rate. If the yield is 30% and the inflation rate is also 30%, you're not really making any money. It's like the US dollar. You think you're earning more dollars, but the US government printed 10 trillion more dollars. So you really are moving backwards. So Celsius is trying to support projects that are creating a real yield and real income for our community, meaning for like in Celsius, the yield comes from third parties paying us interest, paying us fees, rather than us printing more tokens or going to Cardano or somebody else taking tokens from Treasury and giving them to the users. So we believe in sources of real yield, and again, unfortunately, in gaming and DeFi and many of the blockchains, those are inflationary yield. They're not
Right.
yields like you get in Celsius.
Yeah. I can see that being the case, but I think with most people, as you know, just the demand from a lot of these token holders, because many people will, if they're maybe investors in traditional, maybe less and less traditional cryptos and a lot more into metaverse and things of that nature, I think there will be a definite gap in the marketplace of being able to offer those services to those people. So I hope you
Well,
guys bring it out there.
if you think of us as your local grocery store,
Yeah,
we'll sell you all the good stuff. We're not going to sell you cigarettes and
yeah,
alcohol. So,
yeah,
so we're just trying. If you're super advanced and you know what you're doing, great. Go ahead and do it yourself. Celsius is trying to be a little bit more conservative, both on the regulatory side as well as
hmm,
who we bring to the platform. And sometimes we're a little late to the game, but that's fine. We want to make sure that the projects are solid, that the tech is developed, that there's no risk of or reduced risk of hacking. So in many cases, us being late is because we're not necessarily comfortable with this or that function on those chains or on those projects. And you see us adding Solana. Solana is still in beta.
yeah.
Solana had many issues, and we took our time to basically make sure that they patch all of that stuff before we added them to the Celsius platform.
Well, I think the solution you've done with X is going to be interesting because that would eliminate some of the challenges that we have seen, especially in a lot of these kind of wormhole exploits, et cetera, that have been causing these kinds of scenarios to occur. So that'll be interesting to watch, see how
Well,
much
look,
traction you.
yeah, you can just read what Vitalik has published recently in the
Yeah.
last few
Hmm.
weeks about this. He's saying that we need some centralization to provide safe transition or cross-chain capabilities, and that's exactly what Celsius has been developing over the last 2 years. So I think if you watch my interview on YouTube with uh, the Maker founder, with again what Vitalik is saying, I think we're all in agreement that we need both sides of the coin. We need
Yeah.
CeFi and DeFi. We can't just do everything with DeFi.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about rewards because there was a somewhat of a win in federal tax courts in, I think it was Nashville or in Tennessee, that really kind of opened up the opportunity of not paying taxes on rewards of projects or tokens that you're out there staking and gaining these kinds of yields. Do you think this is something that is going to be long lasting, or do you think the IRS is going to try to reposition around this?
No, I hope they're going to treat basically yielding assets, and especially staking assets,
Mm,
exactly as you described. And it's great to see that our court system is working and that citizens can basically demand the IRS to treat this asset no differently than others. So it doesn't mean you're not paying taxes. It just means that it accumulates, and when you sell the asset, that's when you're paying the taxes. It's really good for Celsius because we issue loans against these assets, and now you basically have more coins against which you can defer your taxes, take cheap loans, 1% loans, and same day approval. So all
yeah.
these things are great for the crypto community. Now you can pay your 24% credit card bills, you can pay your student loans, you can take a car loan, and your asset continue to accumulate, and you're really deferring your taxes just like the billionaires do with their
Hmm.
fancy
Yep.
stocks. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of people. And we have a lot of people that watch our shows that are very sophisticated in crypto. We also have a large part of our audience that are new, and I think this is one of those products that we've talked about many times, is that this is a great segue for your investments to really kind of start to branch out and do some creative things. Even if you are a bit conservative on investing in crypto, I think there's some great options. Let's talk about credit cards, debit cards. The marketplace seems to be developing more and more traction with the use case scenario of debit and credit cards within these kinds of platforms, including Celsius. Tell me what your plans are for debit and credit cards and the future of what that might look like.
Yeah, so we're gonna issue a new low interest credit card. So that we talk about single digit interest rate, right?
Ooh,
Versus all the
yeah.
20, 30%
How do you pull
interest that
that
other
off?
people charge you. So it's actually pretty simple. I mean, because we hold assets with our customers, we do what's called asset-backed lending while everybody
Hmm.
else is issuing you credit. So they check your credit score, they check for employment, they look at
Right,
have you paid all your bills on time. Celsius is basically just saying, look, you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, or any of the 50 assets that we support. We
right.
will lend you at a much lower rate, just like we do today. We can
Hmm.
lend you with dollars or stable coins. We can do the same thing on a credit card, and we're just extending what we're already doing to a new service, and it's really an amazing service for most of us because the convenience of using a card worldwide,
Right.
paying these much lower rates, is such a big benefit, especially for crypto holders, because their tax return, if they've never sold their Bitcoin, they're they don't have a W-2 and they don't
Hmm.
have an employment history, and so they really need this kind of service. And I know a lot of our competitors are focusing on paying you 2% back or whatever. We're
Hmm.
focused on actually charging you whatever 9% instead of 24%. I think that is much more than any kind of benefit you can get from cash back or any other rewards that other people give you.
Well, and it's in essence, it's almost like an open line of credit against your, your digital assets, which I think is a new theory for, especially for consumer level. Businesses do this all the time, and it's a great tool set. But most of the time, they're paying, like you mentioned, double-digit interest rates, even with the best companies out there. So it definitely is an issue I think we'll deal with in the future. So you see the future of credit cards maybe going to more asset-backed type credit cards and much lower rates?
Yeah, because that product works for almost every person on the planet, right?
Yeah.
In the United States, we used to having 6, 10 cards in our pockets, but
Hmm.
most of the world does not have that as an option.
Right.
If you live in Africa or you live in Asia, you can't just apply for a card and get credit from the bank. It's an American invention, you know. So half of all the credit in the world, credit card debt in the world, is issued in the United States, over $2 trillion. So we really want to take the idea of a credit card and extend it worldwide to help people achieve financial freedom, economic, kind of making this a global utility instead of something that is only available to the few. Again, the United States is 5% of the world's population, so we are
Yeah.
definitely need to basically provide this to a much broader user base.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we look at all the time is just the global economy of crypto and blockchain in general is becoming, where the US is actually becoming a smaller and smaller part of that, just because we've seen such adoption really around the world. I mean, you've got Russia now that is looking at this more from an aspect of tender, to where this would completely change the dynamic around what's taxable, capital gains, all those kind of things. Do you feel like a G7 country like Russia or others that could make this kind of leap into legalizing these kinds of products? How would that affect Celsius kind of, and what would that future look like for global finance?
Yeah, so really it's a race. It's like a three-car Daytona 500 race, right? So think about the first car is this Chinese digital yuan.
Yeah,
It didn't even wait for the race to start. It's already done
it's just
three.
gone.
It already gone, right? There are more people using the digital yuan today than all the crypto users put together, right?
Yeah,
Because they've basically mandated this, they pushed this, especially now with the Winter Olympics, right? They basically have hundreds of millions of people using that. So the second car is the open source blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the stuff we cheer for, right? That's our car.
yep,
But it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be the winning car, right? So So that's the second one. And the third one is still in the garage. They're still tweaking the engine. They're still trying to figure out who's going to be the driver, and that's really the CBDC, or the government issued, the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England, or all these different countries scratching their head trying to figure out what they're going to do. So really, all of us, we the people, have to decide who we're voting for. And if we don't get our act together, if we don't vote for the public option, we are going to lose. Either the first car or the third car is going to win. And just because the internet, the public version, won the first time, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win this time. This time, the race is for all the money in the world, right? And again, the Chinese car already done a few laps, and they don't wait for the bell to ring. They don't play by the rules. They have their own rules. So let's get our act together. Let's work together.
I think that's a great statement, in the sense of, you're exactly right. When we've kind of, the evolution of the internet and the evolution of really Web 2 and all of what we know today in modern technology, the U.S. was kind of a default winner with that. And I don't know that we can necessarily repeat that for the people's money without a lot of action from the constituents around the world, in all countries, really, to kind of establish that this is essentially the new rule for how finance and financial transactions will take place. So, good point there. Alex, I want a couple more questions, and we'll get to some live questions from the audience. I want to look at a couple of things here on both what you guys are seeing in terms of the swapping, but also the cell token itself. Talk to me about kind of this whole structure around token swaps in general inside the Celsius app, because that's somewhat of a new feature that you guys are doing. And is there a lot of pickup on that in terms of a lot of popularity? Just kind of curious.
Yeah, so this is something our community has been asking for a long time. Even though most of our users are hodlers, once in a while they want to rebalance or they want to switch assets. And normally they have to leave the platform, go do it somewhere else, and then come back paying gas fees and paying spreads that other people charge them. So we added this amazing feature where you can go from any asset to any asset with no fees and no spreads, right? So again,
how do you pull off a zero fee? How do you pull off a zero fee? Explain that.
So look, we make all of our money lending to institutions, exchanges, DeFi, and so on. We make all of our money there. And because of that, we don't charge our community anything. So I'm the largest user of the Celsius platform. I have several $100 million on the platform, and I don't like paying fees. I don't like paying spreads. So for me, it was basically, I'm not going to charge myself. And then 1.5 million people said, hey, can we get the same ticket? Can we sit on the bus right next to you and go to the same destination, the no fee destination? So just in the first few weeks, we've done $150 million worth of swaps. And obviously in busy days like this week, last week, the volumes go up. And again, I always tell our community, again, not financial advice, but you have to hodl and rebalance. When the community is doing great, and in November in my AMAs, I kept telling people, look, now is a great time to rebalance, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to the moon, we don't need to do anything. I'm like, rebalance, right? And now I'm telling people, look, average in, right? The prices, we probably we tested that $33,000, $35,000 level several times. It's a great time to kind of average in. But if you didn't rebalance, you didn't put any dry powder, you can't do any of this average in. So now you can do it inside the app. And basically, it's a big advantage for our users.
Yeah. I was looking at something on the Celsius API, and this was kind of interesting. One, explain how it works, because let's say, for instance, different projects out there start to develop their own loans for their own tokens if they were somehow connected in via your API. I'm just kind of curious if that would be a potential opportunity.
Yeah, so we have a dozen partners that already use us, Voyager, Bitfinex, Liquid Exchange. So we have many, many different, Nuri in Germany, and they all basically using the Celsius infrastructure to provide similar services, yield and other services to their community, right? So this is part of our initiative to, again, enable everybody who wants to leverage what Celsius has built to provide global services to their customers, right? And we partner with many companies to empower them to grow the crypto community. That's our mission, right? Add 100 million new people into crypto. So we're happy to work with other partners. Again, go to the website, check out the API library, and come and join us. Come work
Yeah.
with Celsius.
Yeah, definitely. I want to mention, of course, Alex does a weekly AMA on Friday every week. I love your statement, the value of having community versus bank. Which is, that's the
Yes.
good one, the unbanked.
Unbank yourself, exactly.
I always love it. Just so everybody's aware, Alex comes on our show. He does not pay to be on here. This is not a paid position. We bring on founders like this all the time to dive in deep if they're open with us and they're willing to answer questions, and he's always been great to do that. So we thank you again for jumping in. Hey, we're going to take a few questions here, Alex. And before we do that, though, if you can hang on just a second, I want to show you a poll that we did in our audience just to give you kind of an insight. So if you've ever taken out a crypto loan, look at that. You got a big market right here that's ready to go get some crypto loans. I think that's good.
Well, most people don't understand that the richest people in the world defer their taxes. They go to Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and they borrow against their Tesla stock and their Apple stock and so on. Mm-hmm. And you can do the same thing. The same rules that that apply to Elon Musk apply to you. You can do the same thing. 1% loan, 1% per year, right? So if you're not doing it, you are basically not taking advantage of the same services that the billionaires use to pay as little taxes as possible.
I want to get to some questions here. People asking, do we have a referral code for Celsius? We'll just put a link in our description below. You guys can jump over there and sign up. I'm a Celsius user, happy Celsius user. Love the service. Let's look at a couple of theirs. So people are asking about the Celsius credit card. Are you thinking this is going to hit in 2022 soon? What's the time frame here?
We hope in the first half of 2022 to have it out. And again, this is going to be part of our service. So some services will be available to everybody. Some services will be available to accredited investors. But definitely, I think we have a sign-up form on the website. So if you want to join the waiting list, go ahead and sign up.
All right, and will we be able to swap collateral? I'm questioning whether or not that is, and that's coming in from Bill. I'm not sure what he's asking there, because right now you can swap from one token to another, right? And so what's the variations there?
Yeah, so we added in this new V5, the new version that just came out yesterday, there are several big improvements. For example, we have a protected mode, meaning no one can move your assets. It's a very safe mode. Now you can swap while you're in HODL mode, right?
Okay.
Also, if you took a loan in one asset and you want to move it to another asset, you can take a second loan in a second asset and repay the first asset. So all that stuff can be done inside the app right now, and that makes it much easier to open loans or close loans, as well as move from one asset to another. Try it out. Download the app. It's really easy to use.
Now I've got a question here about UST. Is UST available on the Celsius? I don't have UST in there. Is it available now?
It's available, but not to US users. So Luna is available to everybody, but UST is only available to non-US users.
All right, and then will Celsius add the Polygon chain soon in addition to ERC20?
Yeah, so I think he's asking about the Cell token itself. Cell token is available right now on Polygon. Yeah. And you can actually also directly move assets from Polygon to Celsius. You don't need to go back to layer one. So you can use the same address and just put, if you bought Cell token, for example, on L2, you can push them, deposit them, or move them directly into Celsius through L2. We announced that we recovered over $50 million worth of community assets. People that send us assets to the wrong address, the wrong chain, they made all these mistakes, right? And people lose a lot of money because of that. We recovered over $50 million for our community. And obviously, most of our competitors don't do that. You cannot call Binance and talk to somebody and beg them to recover your assets. So these are
Right.
huge advantages that Celsius do, because we are building this for our community, right? This is what we're committed to do.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor with a lot of platforms out there, whether it's, if you look at the different wallets that are being used. We field questions all the time on Twitter and in YouTube of really unfortunate situations that people are struggling with, from a technical standpoint, but also on a situation where something has happened within a transaction that they could not really talk to anyone. So it's a big factor there. All right, so
we're the only ones, the only place in crypto you can call 1-866 HODL now. You can call and talk to an agent, a live person, not a machine, and we'll answer your questions. You can just ask us what the weather is like, or you can talk about crypto. So over 100 agents that help you become a better crypto hodler.
I like
right?
it.
That's what we're all about.
Question here, what is the plan for New York residents? Anything there? I know we are trying to see some potential movement there. How are you guys faring?
So again, we're working with all regulators worldwide, including New York State and other states, to basically provide the service. In New York, you need to have a BIT license or work with someone who has a BIT license. So we're just waiting to move custodians, and the minute we solve that, we should be able to open it again. And it's in the works. I don't have a date, but it's in the works.
Cool. Another question here. Customer wants to know size of crash that would put funds in danger. And this is kind of really talking about potential liquidation. We've already seen Bitcoin have a fairly significant move downward, and then of course a quick recovery, somewhat quick. Now we're already pointing toward 50K again. Alex, when these kinds of volatile scenarios happen, how does that affect me if I've got a loan out there at 25%, principal asset, and I'm paying my 1%? Where is that liquidity start to really be a potential risk for me?
Yeah, so it depends, where did you take the loan at, right? If you if you took a loan all the way at the top of the market, then Bitcoin has to go down 60 or 65%. You're going to get a margin call. You have time. Normally, we'll give you a margin call. We'll give you at least 12 hours to basically correct the situation. But if you took a loan earlier, like if you took a loan at 40,000 or 30,000, you're not going to even get a margin call, right? So because you need a 60% drawdown from that level, and that rarely happens. So again, just you don't have to take one loan for everything. You can stagger your loans. We don't charge you to open a loan or close a loan or refinance a loan. And now you can do loans for 5 years instead of 3 years. So just take different loans at different levels, and this way you can always refi or migrate them, and basically as long as you resolve, you add more assets, or you send back a little bit of what you borrowed, you'll be in good shape. We don't make money on liquidation. It's not like we're chasing you and trying to auto liquidate you and steal money from your pocket.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, because this is something we've talked about in our own Crypto Pit, was our research team around the 1-year Celsius loan versus, say, a 3-year, which is a lot of the analysis that we've done. You're paying a little higher interest rate, but at the same time, you're obviously holding out and maybe just paying in maintenance interest over that period of time. What are you guys seeing in terms of overall popularity of which loans seem to be the best on the Celsius platform?
Our average LTV is about 32%. So obviously we have some 25, some 50, some 33.
Yeah.
Those are the three options. But the average is about 32%. So it really depends on your circumstances. You pay the same rate if you took a 1-year loan or a 3-year loan. The rate changes if you took a 25% LTV or 50% LTV. That's what changes your rate. And again, you can always refi, right? If you took a 50% loan, you want to go to a 25% loan, just refi. There's no fee. There's no, like, banks charge you, closing points and
fees on fees.
All the stuff. Celsius does not have any of those fees. No origination fee like some other guys, right? So I mean, again, we're helping the community. So just try it out.
Yeah, excellent. Alex, been great having you on again. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see all these new advancements. I'm definitely going to try out this Celsius X and the new V5 app for sure. But thanks for stopping in.
Great. Thanks for having me. Take care.
You bet. All right, so you guys are tuned in now, maybe over on the podcast. If you're listening to this after our live stream, then this is a big miss for you, man. You got a chance to listen to it, but you could have watched it live right here on YouTube. And the way you do that is just go over to YouTube, search Paul Barron Network. You'll find us, and just like a few videos and subscribe, because that's going to be the #1 way you're going to get notifications for things like what we do today, along with a lot of our data that we do on our Crypto Power Index, which is a ton of insights around where the market is trending. And of course, you need to join in on the Diamond Circle. Big community. We've got a big giveaway. We're doing $1,000, another $1,000 in Bitcoin coming up next Monday, right after the Super Bowl, coming up on Monday. So if you lost a little money on that little side bet, then there's your chance to get it back. We're going to do, actually, because our community spoke, we're going to do 4 different giveaways, $250 each. Again, all you have to do is join the Diamond Circle. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.